Hello, 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 and welcome to the World Series of Poker Online Bracelet Series. We are finally down to our final table. An 8 max, 3,200 no limit hold'em high roller event. This is event number 14 on, of course, July 14th. They started at 3 p.m. Pacific time with 496 players, and we are finally down to the last 8. All these players guaranteed $28,950. Who is ready for another night of jungle cucumbers? No, I'm kidding. Okay. Tonight, we've got the always well dressed, very well
Not right
spoken
now.
Max Steinberg. Max, how are you, my man?
I'm good. I'm at my home in Oakland. It's 2 a.m., drinking a nice beer and excited to do some commentary.
Cheers. I am just drinking water.
Oh,
Um, but I'm gonna imagine it's just straight vodka. How's that?
ooh, okay.
Blinds
Well,
are
we're gonna get
25,000,
pretty slurry. Yeah.
50,000. You and I have basically been watching this for the last 45 minutes, hour or so. Any observations going in? Obviously, it took us a while to get from 14 down to 8.
I wasn't watching that closely going in, but the blinds have gotten really big at this point because it has taken so long. So there's going to be a lot of short stacks, and I'm curious how conservative people are going to play because there are some big pay jumps coming up. I think from ninth to fourth place is 20,000 to 100,000, and everyone has pretty even stacks. So I think that there's going to be a lot of careful play, which is kind of opposite of what you usually see in an online tournament, which is looser and aggressive, more aggressive play. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I think also we have some notable players at this table, someone I'm very familiar with, right? If
Yes,
I'm
somebody
not
you're very
mistaken.
familiar.
Yeah.
Not the chip
Yeah.
leader who was raising this hand, never
Yeah.
lucky, but fan of the poker. Many of you know him by his Twitter name, which is Dude904. That is the 2015 World Series of Poker main event champion, two-time bracelet winner, Joseph Mckeon. And of course, Max is very familiar with him because they both made that final table of the main event. Max, of course, finishing in fourth place that year. Max has also won a bracelet uh, uh, in addition to that fourth place finish. But of course, Joe Mckeon dominated that final table that particular year.
Yeah, and he has just gotten to a spot. This is really interesting because I think this is a spot where someone could certainly three bet bluff. Joe is a pretty solid player. He plays sort of tight aggressive. I don't think he gets too out of line. So that was it seems like a smart three bet, and he got a fold. So good job on Joe. And I think he's now second in chips.
Yeah, and to your point, I was actually going to ask you this, and you kind of started touching on this already. Never Lucky's up to 3 million. Now, Joe, fan of the poker, is up to 1.8 million. And I'm really curious to see how the beginning of this final table, that dynamic plays out. Because to your point, nobody was kind of running away with this. You expect the players to play kind of careful because of the huge pay jumps. But do one or two of these players kind of step out a little bit, maybe take an extra risk or two, and see if they can put a little bit of distance between themselves and the rest of the field and kind of go for the big money? Because while the pay jumps are big between eighth and seventh and sixth, the real money is in the top three, four spots.
I think that even Never Lucky is still going to play pretty conservative. He doesn't have such a huge lead, especially with these blinds, that he feels that comfortable just risking. Even a min raise is 100,000, risking 100,000 with a pretty crappy hand. So I think that probably even Joe or the chip leader are going to play pretty conservative and feel it out and not get too crazy. But if that chip lead balloons a little bit, then he's going to get a lot more aggressive.
What's so impressive about Joe McKeon, who's not obviously involved in this hand, is he's got 16.6 million in lifetime earnings. And most of you think, well, he won a main event. Talk, come on. Okay, he only won 7.6 million in the main event, which tells you he's won another 9 million elsewhere. That's crazy. I mean, he has 9 million in lifetime earnings outside of his main event win. As I said, two bracelets, 2015 main event, 2017, he won a 10K limit hold'em championship. This is the second cash of his series. He has also 3 circuit rings to his name. That, of course, fan of the poker. Max Steinberg alongside me. I have done commentary with Max many, many times throughout the years. Always one of my favorites in the booth. I love the way your brain
Aw,
works.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So we'll get
Yeah,
into the rest of these players here as we see this hand play out. Jade Star 17 takes that one down. He's up to 1.4 million. You might know Pringles 12, who is just to the left of Jade Star. He's about to act right now. He's already made a final table this series. The gentleman has 113 cashes. In fact, that is Roland Israel Ashvili, who has the most cashes in the history of the World Series of Poker without a bracelet. 113. In
pretty
fact, he's
incredible.
never even had a second place finish. You wonder if a player like that cares at all about ICM. Does he just want the bracelet?
I wonder, yeah, online, he definitely has a good shot. So this is a spot where I think Never Lucky is going to get really aggressive. He's on the button. There's just two players who are pretty short stacked to his left. That's going to be a really easy spot to steal the blinds. I think when it's like he's on the hijack, he's in middle position, he's not going to be racing as aggressively, but he could have raised almost every hand on the button there.
Yeah, you're talking about never lucky. That is Clayton Mcguire, who actually has a bracelet. Interestingly enough, he won the second World Series of Poker online bracelet ever. That was in
Interesting.
2016. Yeah, he won the 1K WSOP online no limit for 210,000. Again, the second ever World Series of Poker online bracelet. They played
Huh,
back then. What they did was you'd play online, and then the final six
right.
would
Yeah.
come into the Rio and come in the Amazon room. And I actually called his win.
Huh, that's so interesting.
By the
Times have
way, this
changed.
yeah, this guy is his name might be Nevar Lucky, but he certainly doesn't play to that. Not only did he win a bracelet in 2016, 2009 he won an EPT in Monte Carlo.
Mhm.
2010 he won a Venetian deep stack. He has 3 scores over $210,000 in his career.
Seems like a solid resume. So I think this is another spot where he's racing, and it's a really great spot to race because Joe, who's a fan of the poker and the big blind, he just cannot play very aggressively against him. So as long as he gets a fold from the cutoff and the button, he's going to be in really good shape. So he probably is pretty wide here too. Oh,
Got
he
an all
wasn't.
in and a call here. Ace King versus nines. An
Ooh,
ace of king. I'm sorry, no, he's got the trade already. He's got the wheel.
yeah,
He's got the wheel. It's the king to boot.
good measure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
Obviously,
there
only
is
an ace.
not a
Only an
big
ace would
stack.
have chopped it
Yeah.
up. Sorry,
Yeah.
say that again.
Well, now there's not a big stack at all. And Nate is the chip leader with a little over 2 million. Everyone is a real even stack, so it's pretty. You usually do not see such even stacks in a poker tournament. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was such an interesting hand. I mean, nines, ace, king. Obviously, the chips are always going to go in any way you cut it. But obviously, the result by hitting the wheel on the turn, and you look at these chip stacks now, the whole funk is our short stack. Him in New Jersey with basically a million chips.
Yeah, I think this is a spot where even if you're a short stack, if you're just thinking about like ICM and how I'm going to make the most money in the spot, if you're a short stack, this actually might be a spot to get aggressive because if you can build a stack, it's worth so much that I think it actually makes sense with such even stacks to not play as conservative in the spot if you have a 1 million, 1.5 million chip stack and actually build up the aggression and try to build it up. It's risky, but the payoff is quite a bit, obviously $350,000.
Yeah, Max Steinberg alongside me. That is that sultry voice you are listening to on the other side here. Steinberg with a
No
bracelet
one
to
would
his name.
describe me that way. Yeah.
I
Sorry,
just
didn't mean
did.
to cut you off.
Did you not hear me?
Well, okay.
I just did.
Yeah. One person, the only one.
Hey, not only have you won a bracelet, not only did you make the main event final table, you actually have 5 World Series of Poker final tables. Back in the day, you were quite the poker player. Obviously, you have kind of turned to DFS and sports betting and other things. We'll talk about that on the break. But I love how your analytical mind has gone from poker to, hmm, where else can I use data to make money?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do not play that much poker anymore. I admit I focus mostly on sports betting, daily fantasy, but it is fun watching these final tables because it gets my mind working again and trying to think, okay, what's the best move here? What's the best play? And looking at how some of these good players are sizing their bets and what they're doing, it's interesting to see.
New Jersey '05 was at one of our short stack. He's up to 1.3 million. Such a
Yeah.
fluid situation right now. And it's
Yeah.
crazy the more you think about it. One of these players is going to take home, just a tad under 29,000, and one of these players is going to take home 352,000. And at this point, that's going to be decided in the next, say, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
that's
crazy
it's
when I
pretty
think about it.
crazy. It is really crazy.
So
And
8 players remain.
I have no idea who it's going to be. I mean, people are such even stacks, and now the shortest stack just grew a stack, so it's really crazy.
Well, the whole funk in a pot here with Never Lucky. Pot is 398,000. See if Never Lucky wants to continue here. This is an under the gun open
Yeah,
and
this
a
is
big
an
blind
interesting
defend.
spot. That was a good card for Never Lucky though, because he could have something like 10-9 or Jack 9 suited, A9 suited. That being said, I think the whole funk probably is not opening that wide, so I'm uh, like there's definitely some hands here, and I think I think I mean, it's obviously hard to tell what the whole funk has, but I no, that was not really a great run out for him in terms of never like he could have Jack 10, he could have trip 9s, he could have with some sort of runner flush that's like ace Jack of clubs or something like that. But now that he's checked, I think yeah, he probably and he had actually ace Jack, but without the
I'm
clubs.
gonna okay. Listen, Never Lucky is obviously
Yeah,
a really good player, but and we don't talk a lot of analysis here.
yeah,
But okay, I'm gonna put myself out there, and if you
yeah.
guys all in the chat want to call me an idiot, if Never Lucky wants to, that's fine. I feel like that's a mistake because
He should have bluffed
I mean I feel like
or
yeah, I
just
mean
fold.
it's an under the gun open from the whole funk. Ace Jack has no showdown value on that run out. You have a
Yeah.
jack, so you actually block Jack 10, right? You're the one who's going to have all the Jack 10s. You're the one who's going to have all the nines in your range. And if he were to bet like 1.2x pot, the whole funk is just in a world of hurt, even with a hand as good as aces.
That's true. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. He probably would have got a fold. You're right. I think the actual biggest issue is he should have folded the flop because
Okay.
I think he just. I mean, I think the whole funk bet a fourth pot, but I just think your odds are not good enough, and I don't know what his plan was. Like, unless he was planning on bluffing later, but he did
But
wasn't.
that's
So that doesn't.
that's the
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
I mean,
Like
listen,
he doesn't.
if
Yeah,
you're
it's
gonna
like he's not
float,
going to win
right?
his side. Yeah,
Yeah, if you're gonna
exactly.
call the flop, I'm assuming that you're calling the flop to occasionally bluff at it.
Right.
He pretty much got the best run out he could get. I mean, it was
Right,
running
but I think
clubs,
yeah.
so I guess it wasn't the best, but
No, that was basically the best bluff run out he could have gotten. Yeah, I think you're right. But I think that goes to show why he should have absolutely folded the flop. Is if you can get that run out and you still don't feel good about bluffing, then okay, there's some issue with floating here, right? So I don't think that float was very good.
I mean, I'll put myself out there. Listen, I don't mind being called an idiot. I'll do it once in a while. I just feel like I'm like, man, with the nine just smacks Never Lucky's range there when he check calls the flop. If it goes check on the turn, man, the whole funk is going to be in a world of hurt. Unless he has, unless he has
Yeah, but
kings
if
full,
he
queens
has
full.
aces with the club blocker, I would just assume that he'll call. I that would just be my guess. I mean, if you 1.2x the pot, it's technically a bluff catcher, but it's a pretty good bluff catcher. Maybe not. I don't know. It's a final table,
Yeah.
so um, he certainly would be in a tough spot. I just don't like trying to get to someone to fold aces or ace king there. That just seems really tough.
Fair
In a
enough. Okay.
live tournament, maybe differently, but an online one, find it a little harder to get people to fold, and that's something you definitely have to think about.
Even at a final table? What about with the final table ICM dynamics?
I think, I mean, you just have to know the play. I mean, if you feel like the player is someone who is capable of making a big fold, then yes, for sure. But sometimes it might take some time. That being said, these players probably have played with each other prior to the final table, so he could have that read. But I would have to feel pretty confident in it
Uh,
that okay, this person can make a big fold because they need
I'm
to
gonna
do
go
it.
out there. I'll just put it out there. That was Tuchman punt. That was a punt for me. I would have punted off there. I'd probably be out of the tournament, or I would be short stacked. No
No,
doubt.
I think
Soccer
you
DJ.
probably, yeah, you might have got a
Who knows?
point.
Soccer DJ gets that one through. He is up to 1.5 million. That hand was against Innate Nine. Innate Nine, by the way, his third cash of the series, only 140K in live earnings. That is Nathan Russler. Congratulations to Nathan for making a final table here. Has a couple of final tables the last few years. Has 155,000 in total WSOP winnings. Some of those online, obviously. Looking for his first ever bracelet. By the way,
Hope you get it, man.
for many of you out there, as if Ryan DePaulo wasn't already one of your favorite poker players. I know everybody loves Ryan DePaulo. He's such a good character. He won a bracelet in a Whole Foods parking lot. I've never seen that before. It's amazing. All in a call. King, queen versus aces. A king or a queen on the river. Not going to happen. 4 hearts out there, but neither player with a heart. And New Jersey 05 is gone in 8th place. Our first casualty takes home $28,950. We're down to 7.
Yeah,
Anyway,
tough
as I was
spot.
saying,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, I want
Sorry.
your
Go on.
analysis, but as I
I,
was saying,
yeah,
Ryan DePaulo, an absolute boss in a Whole Foods parking lot, he wins a bracelet. Just unbelievable story. Love it. He has gone on now, since that bracelet, he has made 2 more deep runs, including tonight where he finished in 16th place. But more importantly than that, on the money bubble, do you know who he eliminated, Max?
who?
Chris Ferguson,
Good for him.
right?
Yeah,
I love that.
that is great. That, I mean, the Whole Foods parking lot thing is a great story as well.
Just
It
unbelievable.
makes me think
Anyway,
of that. Yeah, from this is so off topic, but back in like sometime in the 2000s, where there's the Whole Foods parking lot YouTube video, music video. It's getting real in the Whole Foods parking lot. I'm not going to sing it, but look it up later. Trust me, it's
okay.
really worth it. Yeah.
You're not even a verse. We can't get you to sing one verse.
No, I knew it's too embarrassing. The
Listen,
song's it,
I'll get Jungle Man back on.
it's
He'll sing a
right.
verse for us, for no doubt.
Yeah, it's called "It's Getting Real" in the Whole Foods parking lot.
It's getting real in the Whole Foods parking lot. Okay, I will check it
Yeah.
out. Not now, I'm busy, but I will check it out later for sure. Never Lucky in
Oh,
8 and 9 involved in this pot, both on about 1.4 million right now. Virtually the same exact stack, actually. And 8 and 9 has them covered by just 2,000 chips.
I wish I had commentary here, but I didn't see the action. But these are 2 big stacks going against each other, so it's uh, I'm just a curious observer right now.
472,000 over to an 8 and 9 who called out of the small blind. Pot is
I, w-
1.25.
I wonder if someone in Twitch can tell me what the action was. Anyone, please?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're on a 2-minute delay.
2 minutes, damn.
Yeah, it's not a long delay, but we're on a 2-minute delay just because the players at the table could theoretically be listening to us, and we don't want to
That makes
influence
sense.
the action.
Right, that makes sense.
So, and usually, when I'm covering it live, I've got it in front of me or I've got a monitor and I can, keep track of everything.
Right,
Here, if I look down for a second at a bio, if
right,
I just go like this, I'm like, oh, was there a bet on the flop? I know there was a raise pre-flop and a call small blind. I'm not sure if it went check, check, and then check, bet, call, or if it went
right.
check, bet, call, and then check, check on the turn. I don't know. I know there was a bet on the post flop. I'm just not sure if it was on the flop or the turn. Nonetheless, though, clearly a bet on the river, and it gets through. And Never Lucky, back in second place in chips. Soccer DJ, still our chip leader. By the way, we don't know anything about Soccer DJ. Do you guys at home? Soccer DJ? Anyone?
I
Anyone?
think I was watching Jeff Platt's stream and he didn't have him labeled, so I don't think people know who he is.
Yeah, not this. This is he's a mystery. Soccer DJ. Up to 3 million chips though. As we watch this out, of course, I've been mentioning Roland, um, Israel Ashvili. That's Pringles 12 in the small blind. Blinds are 30,000, 60,000, and I just think it's a great story. 113 cashes, 5 cashes this series. Still doesn't have a bracelet. Fan of the poker, raising from the cutoff. Action
Yeah,
on Roland.
I mean, at this point, it's really a game of just like timing your blind steals right. Everyone wants to get a steal in if they're not getting hands, and you need to maintain that stack because everyone has only 20 to 25 big blinds other than the big stacks, and so getting those 30 60 with those ante pots is like $130,000 pots is really, really important.
Joseph Mckeon, former main event champion, two-time bracelet winner. Certainly the marquee name at this final table. He wins up. He's up to 1.77 million. Other players, by the way, I don't know if you know this. So other players who have made many, many cashes but have never won a bracelet. Tony Cousineau with 89. Shannon Shore, who made a final table just a couple of days ago. He has 79. Alan Kessler has 81 cashes, no bracelets. The interesting thing about Alan Kessler's 81 cashes, 74 of them are min cashes. I'm joking, but probably not.
I mean, with Alan Kessler, it seems like he's trying to cash without winning. So,
can you imagine, like, out of his 81 cashes, what are there like 67 of them are min cashes?
that would be crazy.
Get a raise here from Jade Star 17, a call from Soccer DJ. We also don't know anything about Jade Star 17, so we'll see if we can get any information about him. Our research staff, which is Saum, producer Saum, who does a great job.
This hand is playing out really. I mean, I actually really love what Jade Star did, except possibly for the bet sizing, or he was bluffing, which is, ooh, never mind. I was gonna say, because if you check back a hand and sort of let the big stack lead into him and raise, I just think that's a really great play because the big stack is just going to try to steal the pot a lot. But that was pretty ambitious, trying to then get him to fold via min raise. Did not work out for him.
Yeah, and that's obviously going to change a little bit of the complexion of this final table because now we do have one player who is far and away the short stack. Jade Star now with under 10 big blinds. Nobody else really close to him. And there's about a $14,000 pay jump between 7th and 6th.
Red. Yeah, this is an interesting pot too because Soccer DJ is now a really big stack, but he just called an under the gun raise from the small blind. I doubt that he's that wide. Like this type of board could have just smacked him right in the face. So I'm definitely expecting a lead out, and obviously he's a big stack, so people might think that he's playing pretty loosely, but I just don't think in this spot that he's very loose at all.
Well, he's going to lead out for 200,000. Action on Mckeon, who checked back the flop, makes the call. Pot is now 802,000. Complete blank on the river.
It makes sense. Yeah, this is not a great run out for Joe. It makes sense that he has a piece of this type of board, but he could be drawing to diamonds. He could be drawing to a straight. And this is a really great bet size because Mckeon has like a hand like Queen Jack or Ace Jack. He's in a really tough spot. He
makes the call. Ace 8.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, and I was dead wrong. A soccer DJ called the small blind Jack 7 offsuit, which is not smart. Not smart, guys. That you do not want to be that careless from the small blind as the big stack. You want to be the person who is being aggressive because then you can take those blinds down. But no one cares if you call. You're just keeping people in the pot and then getting into a really bad situation like that. So
Yeah, that's
not
a
yeah, that
bizarre
was
hand
not
from Soccer DJ, because
yeah.
not only is he calling out of the small blind with a with a pretty suspect hand, but he's calling quite possibly certainly I think without a question the best player at the table. Ace seven versus ace deuce. The seven still plays, but maybe not. Oh, how about a
Oh,
deuce on
brutal,
the
brutal.
river?
Yeah.
Oh, and Jade Star back up to 1.46.
Uh,
Joe Mckeon at 1.7. We had a lot of chop outs, but only three
yeah.
outs were going to give Jade Star the win, and that was one of them. A duck on the river, and he's up to 1.4 million. Thanks for joining us in the chat. Obviously, there are some nights where I pay a ton of attention to you guys. I see you, Benjamin Moon, James DeBear, Vigdorf, Thalo, Sneebuck, Felix Bravio. But when we do have a guest of Max Steinberg's credibility, and I like to pick his brain and kind of go through these hands a little bit. Ryan Feldman in there as well. What's up, Ryan, my man? Once again, 496 players started this journey. We have still 7 remaining. All the 7 players guaranteed 38,600. They're all chasing a bracelet and nearly 353,000 up top.
Yeah, it seems like soccer DJ. There was another pod where if I saw that correctly, called a raise pre-flop and ended up losing the pot. I just think you're the big stack. You do not want to be calling if you have a bad hand. You want to be raising. You want to be the one being aggressive. You want to be careful when you're not doing that because your goal is just pick up chips, pick up the blinds and antes, and slowly build your stack up and try to guarantee yourself a top 3 finish. And by calling like this, he's just really playing carelessly, and he could get himself out in 7th, 6th place, which would be really, really bad for him.
Yeah, an absolute catastrophe as a chip leader. He's
Yeah.
still on 3
Yeah.
million chips. Joe Mckeon, while he loses that ace 7 versus ace deuce, he's still in a good spot in the sense of he has position on the chip leader who
Yeah, although that sucked for him because he wins that pot. I think it's one he would be close to the chip leader, in position on the chip leader, where you just won a pot off of. And I think even though obviously there's not momentum in poker in terms of luck, winning the last pot against someone does sort of give you a bit of a psychological edge on the person. So in position, he would have been close to the chip leader. He would have been in a really, really good spot. Instead, he's back to a medium stack. So that was a tough spot for him.
496,000 in the pot. 496 players played this tournament. They all started at 3 p.m. A bracelet event each and every day in the month of July, and we will have the final table for you each and every day right here on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Of course, I am following the chat in Twitch. So thanks for joining us. I want to shout out to our man, Jeff Platt, who streams each and every night on Twitch on his own channel. That is twitch.tv/Jeff Platt. And he starts that at 10 p.m. Pacific time and takes us all the way to the final table. And I also want to mention Luigi, who apparently is starting a World Series of Poker stream on his Twitch chat. He hands off to Jeff, who then hands off to me, kind of a baton relay race of World Series of Poker streaming. So you guys can check that out. By the way, going back to that ace 8 versus jack 7 hand, question I have for you. Clearly, we know now that Joe Mckeon was never folding. He was only considering, I just dropped my pad, guys, sorry. He was only considering raising. Far be it from me to question Joe Mckeon, but Did he miss an opportunity with a raise there? I mean, obviously, if you know your opponent's got two pair, hindsight's 2020, but I don't want to be results oriented here. What do you think about that? Just calling.
Well, I think two things. One is I think there certainly is something to have it making a play like that at a final table where you could be in a situation like Joe could be in a situation where he'll raise and he basically is getting folds from everything except a chop or a loss. And if he's doing that, then it's a really, really bad play. But on the flip side, with that bet size, my gut feeling was that he had sort of a value hand like two pair, maybe a set, and he really could get value from that. So I think that if I probably would have raised there if I was in his position, but I also think that that type of play makes sense from the standpoint of, if you're raising and you're raising into someone who just is folding everything that's worse than you, that's really, really bad at a final table. It's a risk that you don't want to take. So I think it's a fine play, but I would lean raising probably.
Based on the bet size from
Yeah,
Soccer DJ.
based on the bet size, it was kind of small, and he has a lot of sets. He has a lot of sets. He has a lot of two pair in his range. I mean, I guess if I was playing that hand, I would have thought he did not have king queen offsuit, even though he showed up with jack seven offsuit. So I'm just thinking what I'd be thinking during the hand. I would say maybe not king queen offsuit. So I think given that sizing, I probably would raise and just hope that okay, he might call with the set. It's hard to fold to set. So
An 8-9 moves all in over the top of Never Lucky's open. He's back up to 1.4. Never Lucky down to 1.6. This final table could have been very, very different. Never Lucky had pocket nines versus an 8-9's ace king. An 8-9 hit a wheel on the turn and doubled up rather than getting eliminated. And it was Never Lucky who had the chip lead at that point. If he wins that hand, certainly a different dynamic at this final table as we continue here. Tomorrow, by the way, a little bit of PLO action. That's right, $1,000 pot limit Omaha, 8 max.
So we actually see a limp here, which I'm a huge fan of with these stack sizes at a final table. I think it's a really smart way to take some of those hands that you might not feel comfortable raising, that you can call 80,000 to win a pot of 180,000. That the pot odds are really good, and I think it's a good limp sometimes, and you balance it with limping hands like aces, kings, queens, and I think it's a smart play at a final table where sometimes playing conservatively can help you move from sixth to fourth or fifth to third or something like that. And that's really, really valuable.
Fan of the poker, Joe Mckeon does take the chance to attack the weakness. He's back up to 1.8 million. I was about to ask you if you are limping in, you have to balance that obviously with some premiums. Otherwise, your opponents can just take.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people probably do it sort of imbalanced with some weak hands. So if you can sniff that out and make some raises from the small blind or big blind in those situations, you can fight back and make pretty good pots doing that. But it's hard because there's always that fear of the person could have aces, kings, or queens, and then you're raising into a very strong hand, obviously, and that's not good. So you definitely need to balance it, and it's a game you're playing, but I think it can be very valuable.
Max Steinberg, very familiar with Joe Mckeon, who is fan of the poker. Both of them made the final table of the World Series of Poker main event back in 2015. Max finished fourth in that event. Of course, Joe Mckeon went on to win the main event that year. Max has a bracelet, Joe with 2. Bazam in the chat says, happy belated birthday, Max.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Also, Ryan Feldman said, why does Max Steinberg look like Jesu Musa, who I don't know who that is, but that sounds hilarious.
It
was my birthday.
6-6. Yeah. When was your birthday?
July 9th. I turned 32.
30. It's crazy that you just turned 32. It feels like you've been around forever. I mean, I've been commentating
I,
with you for the
yeah,
last decade.
yeah. Since I was the first year I was able to play the World Series of Poker, I got second in an event. So I've been around a while.
Question here from Jim Lad 999 says, "Is never lucky? Is that Tonka?" No, Tonka is never lucky. This is Nevar lucky, and different people. That is Clayton Mcguire, who has actually won a bracelet. He's also won an EPT. So fairly impressive poker resume. 1.5 million in live earnings, and in fact, his bracelet was won online. It was the second ever World Series of Poker online bracelet back in 2016. That is Clayton Mcguire, who is on the button right now. Blinds are 40,000, 80,000 as we continue here. Seven-handed.
Yeah, they're
Man, it's been a slow haul. I got to tell you, at some point, this is just going to be a luck fest, right?
it already is there. I think. I mean, these players definitely have some room to maneuver, but not much. It's definitely a different type of game. This is not like a live World Series of Poker event where you have 40, 50 big blinds. This is everyone is on a 20 big blind stack. It's going to get worse in 10 minutes, and it's a lot of a blind stealing game. It's a limping game. It's a small, like, these type of bots. And you got to get lucky, but playing those small pots well, picking your spots well is going to be really, really important.
Just for the record, just so everybody realizes what we're talking about here, blinds are 40,000, 80,000. Our chip leader, our chip leader has what, 34
32.
bigs?
Yeah.
33 bigs,
30.
yeah?
Yeah, something like that. Not much. I
No,
guess 34.
not much at all.
No.
An 8-9 in the big blind. He has 15 big blinds. And action folds around to the blinds. You get a raise here, a min raise, something you don't normally see from the small blind, right?
Yeah, I would hate being an 8 in the spot because he's getting such good odds on a call. He's getting really good odds to jam, and he could possibly get some folds.
But here's the
And he's
jam.
the short stack.
Ace five
Yeah.
versus ace queen. There's the ace that's not going to help him. He
Oh,
needs a five or a pair.
or
Not going to happen. Obviously,
yeah.
a deuce or an eight would have chopped it up. A five would have won it. But unfortunately for an 8-9, his day is over. Well played in 8-9. His third cash of the series, his first final table at the World Series of Poker, and he finishes in seventh place. He'll take home $38,600, and we are down to six. You like the
I don't
play? I mean,
mind.
ace five,
Nah,
pretty standard, right? Just a cooler, blind on blind.
I don't I don't mind it. I wouldn't say it's a cooler because it depends on the player, but I think given how loose Soccer DJ had been, I think he definitely would have found some folds there, and he's the shorter stack, so I think it was a fine play. I understand the play there.
Give Soccer DJ some credit. I mean, the small little raise there certainly set the bait, and
Yeah, if
and
he
Nate was very
jammed,
happy to take it.
I don't know if he would have actually gotten a call. So that ended up being a smart play. He took advantage of that loose image and got a shove. So good play.
Smooth Mind says, "You look familiar, David Tuchman. Are you an actor or something? I swear I've seen you somewhere before today." I used to model. I mean, I don't like to brag or something. It's kind of awkward, but yeah, used to be a model. It's all good. Whatever. I
I
know.
can't
You
tell how
probably.
serious you're being, if serious at all.
I'm not being serious. I'm never serious. Come on. You figure, I mean, you and I have known each other now for the last, what, 8, 9 years.
Hey,
I
you
would
could have
think at
had
this
something
point
to
you would know
pass.
that I'm not being serious. Hey, I like
Well,
the fact
that's
that you
just
assume that
a
I
compliment to you. Yeah, exactly. It's possible. It's possible.
Stray Cat 1284 says, which one is Clayton? That is Nevar Lucky, kind of top right center, 1.64 million. Not involved in this pot. In this pot, it is Soccer DJ. We don't know his name. And Roland Israel Ashvili, still looking for his first bracelet. This is his fifth cash of the series, his 113th cash of his career. Q and I were talking about this. You wonder at this point, does he enter these events just thinking, well, I'm not going to win the bracelet. Let's see how
Win.
far I can go.
Yeah, it would be hard to be optimistic at that point for sure. I don't know how I'd feel. Wow. So, I mean, we have Joe jamming to a big stack raise. This has to absolutely be a very strong hand
I was
here.
gonna say, what's the worst hand
Yeah.
he's doing this with?
Well, see, this is not totally my expertise, but
What's your gut?
my gut is nines or tens, maybe. Like maybe not nines. Maybe tens would be a minimum. Ace king for sure.
Ace queen
Um,
suited. By the way, Roland
I
has
think
not
so.
folded
Yeah.
yet. He is tanking here. I'm
Yeah. Oh,
wondering what
for
he's
sure.
tanking with.
This is not an act. Yeah. I
Back up.
mean, maybe a little looser, but that feels like, yeah. I mean, that's just a spot where you just do not. He has position on the big stack. He does not want to be that risky there. So, um, I think in general, just if you, like eights, I just don't think it's going to be profitable. But maybe nines, tens, I feel more certain. Jacks, I feel very certain.
Got a raise here. Jadester calls the raise, and
Wow.
Roland it moves all in. Pringles 12 takes that one down. That's a big pot for him. He picks up about 5.5 big blinds with that raise. He's up to 1.8 million. Anytime you can win those pots, those are huge. He and Joe Mckeon on about 1.8 million, still chasing Soccer DJ, who's on 3.7.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of shocked that the whole funk raises there against the big spot stack because you're just put in a really tough spot if he calls, shows any aggression at all. Usually, the strategy I take is I just limp small blind for his big blind, especially against the big stack, because if he decides to raise, you if you're slow playing a hand, you can re-raise, you can play sort of tight range, hope he checks, and then you're just not exposing yourself that much. No, we have
Your
a
name
post-flop
fish.
pot.
We do. Your name fish says Soccer DJ could be a she. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. We don't when we don't know the name, we have no idea. Obviously, and we
So
do
that
see a
this is
flop here.
yeah, this is interesting because the whole funk, that king queen jet 10 board flop is almost certainly better for his range than the big blind's range, but he decides to check and just give up. So um probably was just a total miss and just didn't feel comfortable betting his total miss. But I was surprised to see that check there.
By the way, the whole funk is Frank Funaro, who he has career live tournament winnings of 129,000. He's been hot lately. Last year, he won a couple of tournaments in Borgata. Not huge tournaments, but the fact that he was able to close things out always tells me he has some final table experience and a little bit more confidence probably if he gets shorter here.
Yeah, so we have an interesting thought building. So this is small blind versus big blind. Joe, who Mckeon, who's fan of the poker, almost raised 3x. Jade Star called, and then he bet small on the flop. Jade Star called again. And now the small blind is in a really awkward spot. And well, he just bet it. It's funny with online, things go so quickly. It's like you can't even do analysis because the hand's just over and we're on to a new hand. But
Yeah,
that was shaping
it
up
is a
to be a
different
tough
animal.
pot, and then it's just done. It's like, oh well, okay, he won the pot. There we go.
Yeah, it's a very different animal from a commentating perspective. People have been
Right.
asking me about that, and getting into deep analysis on hands is difficult because
No, you
live
can't.
poker we get 4 or 5 minutes sometimes to discuss a
Right.
hand, to discuss a play. Here it's like, okay, go. You've got 7 seconds. Next
Right.
hand, let's
It's
go.
like, yeah, yeah.
By the way, players are going to go on a break in about 2 minutes.
Oh,
We have only lost 2 players. In fact, I want to say in the last 2.5 hours, they've only lost 6 players, which is just astonishing. But as you can see, the players are pretty short right now. Get a raise here from Joe McKeon, fan of the poker. Jadester all in for 1.1 million. Back over to McKeon.
it seems like it's been a pretty aggressive final table too. Lots of raising, lots of getting all in, some post flop play. It's pretty actually pretty interesting.
Blinds 40,000, 80,000 for another minute and 18 seconds. That'll probably take us to the break. And then when we come back, the blinds will be at a very commentator friendly level of 50,000, 100,000. I want to thank you for joining us, Frogman, Thallo, Felix Bravio. I see you guys in the chat. DNAP123. Little post flop here with the whole funk, who defends the
And
big
a
blinds.
pot size bet, interestingly enough.
Are you surprised the pot size bet on a board that's really not that wet? I mean, I know there are some straight
Yeah,
draws out there,
absolutely.
but
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're this short stack, you can get really creative. You can check, you can make small bets, you can make big. I'm not really sure the value of making a big bet here, especially if you're bluffing, because why? I just don't understand.
there's
You're
the
sort
all
of
in.
you're inducing an all in basically. So um, hey, it's a weird bet size. It doesn't seem correct to me, but I don't know. I'm 32. I'm washed up, so
No, but I'm with you on a board
yeah,
like this. Even though there are some straight draws out there, I would think that you could size that one down.
yeah, for sure.
With your overpairs, with your jacks, with your bluffs, and you can achieve the same thing for a lot less.
Right. He could have
Uh,
he could have lost half. He could have bet half pot there and accomplished the same thing. It actually would have probably been scarier. Maybe not, but almost as scary. So it didn't seem like a great bet size. Not to say
yeah.
betting is bad. I mean, betting probably was a good move, but it just smaller would have been better for sure.
What's up, Iverson? Answers. Panic Fish live from me. GTR bot. Thanks so much, guys. We are here each and every night in the month of July for the World Series of Poker. We take every single final table to a champion, and of course, we will be here until we crown a champion. Max Steinberg, David Tuchman here. So first off, I want to answer a question. Ryan Feldman asked me if the chair is comfortable. So this is the DX
Ooh,
Racer chair. It is extremely
wow.
comfortable. DX Racer, by the way, was a sponsor of the World Series of Poker for many years, and this was actually a chair that I used in the black booth many years ago. And that particular year, I said to everybody who listened, I said, I'm taking this chair home. And everybody's like, yeah, yeah, whatever, Tuck. I said, I'm taking this chair home. And after the last day of commentary, I took this chair, I threw it in the back of my Jeep, and I drove home. So yeah, it
Wow.
is very Ryan. It is a very comfortable chair. I
It
am a
looks
big fan
comfortable.
of the chair. Yeah, it's a good gamer's chair and a great commentator's chair as well. So Max, let's talk about you just for a moment because you were just an online crusher. You played heads up, sit and goes for many years, and you were killing at that. One of the things that I loved about your poker game was you kind of always thought outside the box. And now, and then obviously, and then the weird thing is, so you said you did all that. You were a poker crusher, made the main event final table, come in fourth place there, and then you kind of went into DFS and sports. And in fact, right now you have a website, right? Called
Yeah.
sabersim.com.
Yeah.
What is that? What
So
is that all about?
yeah, SaberSim is a daily fantasy website. We do projections. We have a lineup builder. It's actually something that I did not found, but I became an investor in. Um, God, has it been 2 years? I think it's just been 1 year, a year ago, and I invested. I've been helping out. I created the League of Legends and golf projection systems, and it's a cool product. It's a lineup builder for daily fantasy, so it helps you whether you're making one lineup or 20 lineups or a lot more than that if you're trying to win one of these $1 million tournaments that DraftKings or FanDuel offers. Um, it helps you build those lineups, and the technology is actually a simulator, so we simulate all the games and then use that data from that simulations to help you build better lineups. And it's a really cool technology. I think it's awesome. It's a reason that I invested in it. And yeah, it's called SaberSim.
I have a question for you. So, I mean,
Yeah.
guys at home, if you do play DFS, if you sports bet, Max is a really, really good follow. Okay, I will tweet later on his name. Are
Thank
you
you.
just Max J Steinberg still?
Yeah, that's
Still just
me.
Max J Steinberg. He's a great follow on Twitter. Like I said, if you bet on sports, if you're into DFS, Max is a super smart guy. He and his twin brother, they crush all these things. I always have a question about these sites though. So I go to sabersim.com and I get a lineup, right?
Yeah.
But aren't I going to have the same lineup as the other people that go to sabersim.com?
Yeah, so actually, no, I would say that probably other websites is the case. But with SaberSim, we actually build the lineups from our, I mean, it's hard to explain in the 15 seconds that I have, but we build it from simulation data instead of just, a lot of sites they'll have projections for every player, right? And that's an
Right.
average projection. SaberSim, we're simulating all the games. We're building you lineups from that data. And so people are getting different lineups because we're taking from different simulations when we're giving you a lineup. Plus, people make their own projections. They're going to import their own
Okay.
projections.
It's
Usually
interesting.
people
Like I
like to
said, I mean,
adjust it. Yeah, yeah.
I feel like people that are
You're
interested in
not.
poker, yeah, people that are
Yeah.
interested in poker are certainly interested in DFS and sports betting. So again, guys, Max is a great follow on Twitter. Check him out at Max J Steinberg. Let's get back to poker. Blinds are 40,000,
Yes.
80,000. Joe Mckeon currently started his hand second in chips, and he's going to raise it up to 160,000. Action folds around to never lucky. There's Clayton Mcguire, the only other player at this table who has won a bracelet, and he won an online bracelet to boot. He also has an EPT on his poker resume. Soccer DJ, the chip out of the big blind. Ace Queen 7. This certainly should favor Joe's range, right?
It should, yeah, and I just don't think he's raising very loosely because Soccer DJ has shown that he plays pretty loose, and Joe is smart. He does not want to get into a big pot with Soccer DJ. He wants to pick off some of these smaller stacks with some steals. So I think this is a really good run out for Joe, and I'd be surprised if Soccer DJ bets here. I'm assuming that this is a great run out for Joe. Oh, wow.
It's not a great run out, but he's going to win it anywhere with a pair of
Yeah,
sevens.
yeah. And that was
So
probably the very bottom of his under the gun raising range.
yeah, you have to imagine Joe up to 2.5 million. The one thing about Joe's game that has always struck me is, if I had to describe it, fearless. I just see him and it just seems like he doesn't care if he gets knocked out. And clearly he does. He doesn't want to get knocked out,
You're right.
but he plays a style where if I was playing against him, I'd just be like, man, that guy doesn't care if he gets knocked out. He has no fear. You know what I mean? And he's so relentless with that.
Yeah, and I think he just plays a really solid game. He plays pretty tight, but he plays aggressive, and you'll think, okay, this guy's playing pretty tight. He's not getting out of line, and then he'll show up with 6-7 suited, and you'll think, oh, I didn't think that he was playing that loose pre-flop. I didn't think he'd be bluffing here, and he just picks his spots really well. He's definitely a great player for sure.
Some people in the chat saying this is the first time they've seen you not wear a suit. I will tell you
I'm-
that when he comes in the commentary booth and it's just audio, normally during the World Series of Poker, you don't see our faces. Probably makes for a better show. My apologies. But Max does not wear a suit when he comes in to do commentary with me. He does dress up very well for all of his final tables, though.
I haven't worn a suit in a while.
There you go.
It's
I
been a
like it.
while. Yeah.
Puppy Butter 73, thank you for the compliment. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're here each and every night in July. When I say we, not me and Max, I'm here with an assortment of guests. Hopefully, we'll get Max on one more time.
Yeah.
260,000 in there. This is a little blind on blind battle. And a bet from Pringles 12 and a win. Very simple. That is Roland Israelashvili looking for his first ever bracelet.
See, and this is kind of interesting because just thinking about ICM, there's some value in Israel, or right, sorry, what Roland, just
Just call him
folding and
Roland. It's
letting,
easier.
yeah, Roland, exactly. Folding and just letting the small blind have a decision because the small blind basically with 10 big blinds is all in or fold, and he has some incentive for the people to go out. These pay jumps are starting to get bigger, so he might have folded the button with a hand that was marginal, just thinking, okay, well, let's put the small blind in a position where he just has to go all in or fold and give me that pay
That
jump.
is such a good
Yeah.
point you bring up.
Yeah.
I believe I'm trying to think of the exact word that Patrick Leonard Pads used. He did commentary with me last summer. Brent Hanks was alongside me for it. And Pads is just such a smart guy. Certainly one of the better poker players out there right now. Oh, we got a raise and an all in.
Wow.
Pringles is up to
Wow.
2.5
That
million.
was crazy.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that was.
That I mean, then that was what I was talking about is the with Joe is you think that he's playing pretty tight and then he will pull off some of these bluffs. And that's a real interesting one. I think he probably thought Roland was just stealing pretty wide there and that he'd get a lot of folds. Um,
Oh, all in a call. Ace King versus Ace
uh,
Jack. J Star looking.
yeah,
Oh, look at that. Board's paired
the
right
chop.
now and a deuce of clubs, and they chop it up. That's it.
He cannot win a blind versus blind pot versus Jade Star. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's got to be
Second
frustrating
in a row.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be frustrating for Joe, as he has had 2 chances to knock out Jade Star. He's had the best hand both times, and he lost one to Ace Deuce with Ace 7, and then there Ace King versus Ace Jack, and I mean, what that's kind of a cooler. Obviously, the chips are always going to go in there.
Right. Yeah,
But
but it's another hand where Joe had a dominant ace and did not win the pot against Jade Star. Not great. You
Sika
have
Kano
to
says
win this
A
pot.
plus
Yeah.
commentary from Max. I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, those are
I,
tough. But to
yeah.
Joe's credit, despite losing with Ace 7 to Ace Deuce, despite that, he's still comfortable with 2 million chips. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. This is bizarre. I mean, are you seeing this? So the whole fund is
I am
raised that
seeing
we
it.
got in. And I guess no, I just don't understand what you would.
Wait a second. I think we don't know who Jade Star is. Could Jade Star 17 be Phil Hellmuth? Because this seems like a short deck play out of Phil Hellmuth's book. I'm kidding, guys. We know that's not Phil Hellmuth.
I mean, I guess I could see someone doing this with ace. Like, if we're thinking, okay, this is actually like a smart play. Well, no, I just don't understand. If you have an unpaired hand, you would go all in. If you have a paired hand, you would then shove. So I don't. Oh man,
I mean, the
what a
thing is,
bizarre play.
yeah, the thing is, even if he had aces, there was no fold equity. He's going to get called by the whole funk anyway. Why would you not just move
Right.
all in?
Maybe you have
You
some
only had
incentive.
6 bigs.
I think actually with aces, there might be incentive to keep the big blind in. That would be the only thing. I think with anything
Okay.
else, it wouldn't make sense. But obviously, it didn't have aces, so or it's a misclick or something. That was bizarre.
Yeah, I think we always discount the fact that it could be a misclick. Anyway, what I was saying earlier when we saw some action, and again, it's so hard to get these stories out because there's so much action and it happens so quickly, is last year, Patrick Leonard during commentary talked about the collision effect. He said, every time you fold, you actually make money. Wrap your
Right,
head around that just for a second. Yes, forget about results oriented. Forget about the fact that sometimes you don't. What he's saying that at a final table, because of the pay jumps, every single
right,
time you fold, there is a chance the players behind you might get into a collision and somebody might get eliminated. Therefore, every
right,
time you fold, you make money. You kind of brought that up on the button, and it really brings up an interesting point because when Roland folds the button, it is far more likely that there will be a collision between the small blind and the big blind. Here we do see a collision. There's a 4 though. Never
wow.
lucky here. As he hits the 4 on the turn, he's still in there with 1.7 million. Soccer DJ on 2.5 million. We could be here till 6 in the morning.
I, luckily for us, the blinds are really damn big, so that probably will not happen. But yeah, chips are just being traded around here. Oh,
We got an all in and a call. Ace Jack versus Ace 6.
I
3
mean, at
diamonds
this
out there.
point,
There's a 6. Are you kidding me? Wow.
you want to have the worst ace at this final table. It's pretty incredible every time.
I mean, the sick thing was it was a diamond as well, so Soccer DJ had to redraw.
Oh, he just chatted too. He's not happy.
No.
No.
2.1 million. Well, I mean, he just lost with ace jack to ace four and then ace jack to ace six. That's got to
Yeah.
be, I mean, two times you're dominating your opponent, and it's not even like you got a chop in one of them. He lost them both.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. And the chip stacks are changing so rapidly. I think it's, the whole funk is now a decent chip leader, and he min raised last hand, he's min raising on this hand. He could start deciding to get aggressive and try to run over this table. He possibly has the stack for it.
Well, Joe Mckeon doesn't care. He's all in for 1.8 million, and he gets
Yeah,
to fold
smart.
Mckeon back up over 2 million.
Yeah.
So one thing about Mckeon, he just will not allow himself to get into a situation where he doesn't have fold equity.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, he really, you can see when he plays, he's betting, he's raising, he's three betting. It's a smart move, especially at a final table.
What's up, 888 Nemo? Greetings from Germany. Well, greetings to you. Good morning to you in Germany. Or I should actually say good afternoon already, as it is, I think, probably 1 p.m. in Germany. Maybe it's noon. Either way, good day, sir. Thank you for joining us. We're here each and every day. Tomorrow night, PLO. That's right. The great game of Pot Limit Omaha. I have a call out to Joey Ingram. If you guys want him in commentary, do me a favor. Tweet him. Tweet at him. Tell him to join me. Okay? I've
I'll do
already put the text out there.
it.
But if he gets enough of you guys out there, if you want Joey in the booth tomorrow night, if enough of you badger him on Twitter, he'll join. Blind still 50,000 and 100,000. They're going to be going up in about 9 minutes. Levels are 20 minutes long. Probably one of the reasons why we're having a little bit of a later night, but still. Rolling, raising it up to 200,000 and all in from our chip leader, the whole funk. Puts in the whole stack.
Yeah, and I could not imagine this being any sort of a bluff. It's got to be pretty strong. And I think Roland probably thought that too.
He lets it go. By the way, we have no dramatically short stacks. I mean, Jade
No.
Star still has 12 big blinds. We have no big stacks either, though, by the way.
Right. Well, the whole funk is definitely acting like the big stack. I think he's been involved in, I think, 4 out of the last 5 hands, maybe 4 out of the last 6. So he's playing pretty aggressively.
Right, but he's literally one of those all-ins away from being the short stack also.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
That's how fluid the situation is. Max Steinberg, David Tuchman here calling the action for event number 14. This is so far, this is the biggest event on WSOP.com, 3,200. Some of the bigger events will be on GG Poker for the international players. 85 bracelets from July 1st through early September. 31 of them on WSOP.com. The other 54 or so on GG Poker. What's up, Jay Smith, 84 Poker? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, this is really interesting. So, I feel like in these spots where someone has a bunch of hands that are just so obvious bluffs, like missed hearts, missed gutshot straight draws, and sort of bets big like that, it's actually usually strong. So, because I feel like Joe would be too fearful that he's going to get called down here to make a bluff here. So I really actually do not think this is a bluff. I think this is strong.
I mean, I have to imagine this run out favors a big blind range more than the razor, right?
A little bit, but I don't know. Against the big stack, is he going to call I guess he would call the flop with 8.
He does make the call, 8 and 9.
Oh, he has 8, 9. Yeah.
Second time he's had an 8 in his hand to make a straight. By the way, don't look now. The 2015 main event champion is our chip leader, Joe Mckeon, on 2.9 million chips. How fitting that we have another 2015 main event final table list calling the action Max
Yeah,
Steinberg, of course, finished
we had
fourth
no
that year.
idea. Yeah.
And we didn't know, by the way. Max and I talked about this yesterday. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
I saw Joe making a run and I was like, hey, Max, come on.
No.
Hello from Norway. Major trouble at 89. The Gov says it's 10:12 p.m. in Auckland, New Zealand. What's up? Abigdorf. Apparently it's 1 p.m. here in Israel. Morning from Ireland, casual gambler. Thanks for joining us. Again, guys, tomorrow night, PLO. If you want Joey Ingram, go bug him. Send him many tweets. Okay? The more you send him, the more likely he's going to come on the show. I guarantee it. King high flop. The power of social media.
Yeah.
Never lucky in the big blind. Lets it go.
Yeah. I mean, that was just a great flop for Joe, just to make a small bet and take it down.
Now, this is where the cream really rises to the top. One of the things I was just telling Max before the show, and I've been talking about this, one of the biggest surprises for me during this WSOP.com bracelet series, pardon me, has been how the cream has risen to the top. We have consistently seen big names in poker make deep runs. I mean, just last night, Connor Drynan makes a run. Jack 3, Ace 7 is never lucky, finally out. He is. Finally, we lose a player, and that is Clayton Mcguire. Won a bracelet back in 2016. He won an EPT back in 2009. And here he comes in sixth place, takes home $52,623. A great run by him. Clayton Mcguire will certainly be back fighting for more bracelets, and we are down to 5. The whole funk, by the way, took the chip lead with that one.
Yeah, this is going pretty quickly. That was a good pay. Yeah, that Joe raised under the gun immediately there, and that's just a spot where Big Stack, which is wanting some chips, he's probably not looking to get into a pot right away. So it was a good steal opportunity and ran into probably a hand from Jade Star. So unfortunate for Joe.
Jade Star is just living a blessed life right here. I mean,
he is.
He could have easily been eliminated, 2-3 spots ago, but now he's got $73,000 locked up. We have the 2 chip leaders locked up in this one. Joe Mckeon with 2.8 million. The whole funk has him covered.
And he basically just banned any hand here because Joe's just in a really tough spot. He just cannot be aggressive against the whole funk and risk going out in 5th when he's second in chips.
We got Philly in the chat. We got Boston in the chat. Morning from Toronto. Wolfo, thank you so much, guys. Josh Townsend, 88, says Joe is a beast and Max's analysis has been great.
Oh, thank you.
Mckeon up to 2.9 million chips. 5 players remain. As I mentioned, the 5 players all guaranteed just under 73,000. First place, though, this is by far our biggest first place prize so far. 352,000 goes to first.
Not bad. A lot of money.
I know you don't play a ton of poker, but when you watch this, does it kind of get you itching to play a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially at a final table, it's so much fun when you get there. So if I could just skip day 1 or the first 10 hours of an online tournament and just get here, then yeah, I'd really want to do it.
Action on the blinds here. The whole funk versus Soccer DJ. Get a raise, not a huge raise, but it's enough to get the job done. And the whole funk, once again, that's Frank Funaro, is now up to 4.5 million chips.
It doesn't need to be a big raise when you're the big stack. When even a min raise can have a lot of leverage against some of these sure stacks because they just cannot get into a pot with you. So good sizing from the whole funk.
Get an all in here from Jade Star. He's
Yeah,
not going to let himself
soccer
get
is.
bluffed that time.
Yeah, soccer DJ is kind of punishing himself by being too loose in the small blind again.
Yeah, I mean,
Four
I'm gonna
horse
go on a
yeah.
limb and say, and please poke a hole in this theory if I'm wrong, but in the big blind, you can call pretty light because you're getting such a good price. But out of the small blind, when you don't close the action, you've got to be pretty tight out of the small blind, right? Calling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially under the gun raise, but you probably can be a little looser than the common thinking is, especially if the antes are big, and they're actually not. So probably not in this situation because the antes, as you get shorter handed, the antes get smaller, which means the pot gets smaller pre-flop, and you get worse and worse of a price for the small blind. So yeah, you want to actually even play a little tighter. So it's not a good strategy to play that loose.
Got a question here from Casket Romance. Says, why the min raise on the button with a dude who doesn't fold his big blind? Why not make it bigger than minimum? And I'm asking a guy, Max Steinberg, by the way, notoriously back in the
Yeah,
day when everybody was making the same raise size no matter what, Max was a guy who thought outside the box. And he would actually go, sometimes you'd go 3.5, 4x if you thought that
right.
was the correct thing to do. Uh, what's your
However,
thought on that?
I think it's fine in the spot. I mean, the thing is you have to in a tournament, you have to think of how much leverage you have and like how risky it is to even get into a pot with you. And if you're a big stack or a bigger stack and you min raise 3x or 2x, it doesn't really matter. The price is sort of the same because the price is not just the chips, it's getting into a risky situation. And if you're up against a player who cannot afford to get into a risky situation with you, it actually is better to make a smaller raise because you're getting a really good price and getting a lot of folds. So I actually think it
Speaking,
is good, especially at a final table, to make smaller raises, make smaller bet sizes like the whole funk is doing right now. And it actually pays off a lot.
yeah, speaking of getting yourself in risky situations, fan of the poker, Joe Mckeon does call out of the big blind. Ace,
Yeah.
ace three flop. The whole funk with the down bet on the flop. That's what the kids say these days, the down bet.
Yeah. And it's a
And he
smart
made
sizing. Yeah.
you like that the 120 into 600, just absolutely a super tiny bet. Gets called, and now he's going to size it up a little bit. Two spades, two diamonds out there.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think, well, it's sort of interesting. I mean, he did bet so small on the flop, so Joe could have called king queen, something like that on the flop, maybe a smaller pair. But it's not like he has like 3-4 or 3-2 or something. So, oh wow,
Oh, so Joe did
wow,
call him with King Jack,
wow,
and he was
and it was
good
a great call. Yeah,
until the river.
yeah. Yeah, he must have read into that sizing in some way. That was a really good savvy call against a big stack at this point in the tournament and just got unlucky.
And the funny thing is, I was about to follow up with the question. You know, can you call on the flop, getting a great price with what you
And not
think might
follow
be the
up.
best
Yeah.
hand, but the problem is what's the playability of the hand, which is what you were saying. You're like, maybe he calls with
Right.
king queen on the flop, king jack effectively the same hand there as king queen.
Right.
If you call the flop, what's the playability of that hand going forward? But Joe Mckeon kind of showed us, I'm just going to call you twice because I know I have the best hand.
Yeah, and he might have not been thinking just he's going to call anything twice, but there probably was something in that turn sizing where he said, okay, well, wait a second. Why are you betting this size if you have an ace or if you have a pair at all? He probably just was pretty confident he was good. And he's right.
And unfortunately for him, the whole funk hits
Yeah.
a pair on the river. That's got to be, I mean, as a poker player, that has to be one of the most frustrating things when you do get it right. You make the right call.
Right.
And and especially in a spot like that where it's such a big moment and you put yourself out on a limb and you make a huge call like that and then your opponent gets lucky. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah. I feel worse when I make a mistake and get unlucky. If I do something well and get unlucky, I still feel good about it. It's all about the theoretical
Max, by the
uh,
way,
money you're making.
infamously, I could be wrong here, but I think Max infamously, Max is not afraid to put himself out there, which is one of the reasons why I like his brain. I like the way he thinks. Uh, I believe it was you on TV that you made. Did you make the Jack High call?
Yeah, that's me.
How'd that work out?
Are you trying to rip me? It didn't work out well.
Oh, come on. It's years later. I think you're over it now, aren't you?
Maybe not. No, I mean, yeah, it was definitely was
Dude,
thinking
that's
outside.
honestly, you're
Yeah.
it's such a boss move on to like to even have the guts to make a call like that. Okay?
That's a one way to put it for sure.
I mean, listen, you realize when you're calling somebody with Jack High, you're putting
Yeah.
yourself out there. You're going to either
Yeah,
look
for
like an
sure.
absolute genius or an idiot.
Right.
I mean, that's the line you're walking, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's one of those statements felt more true for most people who are watching that, which is the idiot one. So
I'm sure. Listen, it's a fine line. I thought it
yeah.
was pretty cool.
Well,
And
thank you.
I definitely don't bring it up as a rib. Ace three versus Jack 10. Wait a
Ooh,
second, could
wow.
be over. It is for
Yeah.
Soccer DJ. Soccer DJ was our chip leader at one point, but unfortunately for him, finds himself out the door, and suddenly, the whole funk has got a whole bunch of chips. Suddenly on
Yeah.
7.2 million, we're down to four players. The Soccer DJ does take home $72,979 for his fifth place efforts. We're down to four. All four of these players guaranteed six figures.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really fun for the whole fun because he basically can just shove almost anything or min raise almost anything and get away with it because these guys do not want to play a pot with him.
I mean, you're talking about huge pay jumps. I mean, $45,000 pay jump, tens versus 4-6. Boom. We're three
Oof.
handed. Just like that.
Oh
Jade Star
wow.
finally gets it in bad and can't catch up. He's gone in fourth place. He takes home 103,000. Our remaining three players all guaranteed 149,000.
Yeah, and you're just probably going to see the whole fund raising every hand here because he knows that the other two players just that's a huge pay jump, 70,000. And they're probably just hoping, okay, let me get heads up with this guy. Let me wait for a big hand and see if I can do something. It's worth it.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Once you get heads
Yeah.
up, you double up once and you're kind of right back in it. I will say for Pringles 12, that is once again, Roland Israel Ashvili. He has never in all of his career, Ace King, oh no, there's a five. Joe Mckeon
Brutal.
could be out. Oh, the ace on
Oh,
the river. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Shut the front door.
I was gonna say, if he lost that one, that would be basically getting third without winning one hand where he's ahead all in at the final table. So that I think he was due for that one for
He
sure.
might have, yeah, he might have thrown his laptop
Yeah.
through the wall if he lost that one.
I think he probably cannot complain about luck when you've won the main event. So I
You
would
know what?
hope that's
That is
good.
a rule. I still remember Joe Hashem, who won the 2005 main event. The next year at the main event, true story, guys, because I was in the Rio at the time. 2005 main event, Joe Hashem wins it, right? He wins the main event. The next year, he had the audacity, and I like Joe, by the way. He had the audacity to
To
stand
complain.
up in the Amazon room. Oh, he stands up, he goes, I never get lucky.
Oh,
Seriously. He had the
wow.
audacity. He's like, always, always. And he's just complaining. And I'm in your camp. Like to me, if you ever win a World Series of Poker main event, you can never complain at a poker table again.
No.
You can complain about life, sure, but poker table, no. Just zip. Bye bye.
Yep.
Wow. What a turn of events that was. I mean, we were almost heads up here.
Yeah.
Three-handed. Roland, Israel Ashvili, Joe Mckeon and Frank Funaro, and it's Frank Funaro who has more than half the chips in play.
Yeah, and he can still be really aggressive. I mean, this is not the board too. This is a really great board for Joe. Oh, we got some action though.
We do. Pot is just over a half million. By the way, am I the only one that is tilted by the fact that there's a dollar sign on the screen for these chips? They're not dollars. I know it's a
You
it's a
might
little
be the
pet
only
peeve of
one.
mine, but it's not.
Yeah,
He's not betting $287,000. No, they're chips. 5-6. That is
uh,
going to be good here.
I'm assuming that Joe had some sort of good pair there to check that fast because that definitely would have been a good card to bluff on. I don't know if he would have gotten a fold, but just that's definitely a better card for him than it is for the whole funk.
Yeah, I don't think the whole funk was folding that. So pretty
No,
lucky if Joe had some showdown there. All in for Joe, and it gets through. He's back up to 3.25 million. Fallow mentioning, is it just me or does that happen on World Series of Poker just a ton? Ace nine versus six is a
there's
10,
always
an ace, or a nine,
yeah.
and it is not the sixes hold.
Ooh,
We're
we
heads
have
up
a
here.
game.
Another final table for Pringles 12, another final table for Roland Israel Ashvili, and still 113 cashes later, he has yet to finish first or second at a World Series of Poker event. Nonetheless, though, he does take home $148,000 for his third place efforts. We are heads up. Joe Mckeon versus Frank Funaro. About a 3-1 chip lead for the whole funk.
What a great graphic, just putting the money on the table, the virtual money.
Yeah, last night, Jungle Man was doing commentary with me, and in just a very Jungle Man-esque way, he looks at it, he goes, I don't like the money. It kind of looks a little tacky. And I go, no, that's real money. And he goes, what? Really? Huh? Just yeah.
He's a
Oh, all
goofball.
in. Joe not messing around. Joe is not messing around.
Or he probably has a pretty strong hand, I would guess, to just shove a pot size bet there. Because I think this was a limp.
Oh, all in. Call 7-6 versus 7-4.
Wow. Oof.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I
mean,
don't know if you can blame the whole funk, can you?
um, I think you can actually. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a limp pot pre, so he has every combination of offsuit connectors. So you'd have 4-3, you could have 8-9, you could have any two pair. Like I don't think 7-4 is good enough to go there. That it was actually a pretty big shove. There's no way he's bluffing. That would be absurd. Um, yeah, I think he should have found a fault.
With just a pair
I
and a
mean,
straight draw.
yeah, it was like it was 2.5 to win 3.5, I think. So the pot odds were not like incredible.
So even with top pair and a straight draw, just not a strong enough hand.
Yeah, but at bottom end, I mean, he could have 0% equity.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Although you
so
just said, I mean, I guess my primitive mind, I'm thinking, I dismiss 8-9 because I don't think that Joe's doing that with the nuts.
I think he might. Okay, but even if
Okay.
you do, I think at best he just has a live straight draw. I never think that he's winning. And if you just have a straight draw, it's your equity is just not great. Now if the pot was bigger, then yeah, sure. But it just was not that big of a pot.
Well, this is kind of what we were talking about. Three-handed, you just let the other person get knocked out, and
Yeah.
now you're heads up. You've doubled up one time, and suddenly you're in the chip lead. And now it's the two-time bracelet winner, former main event champion Joe Mckeon, who is heads up for a bracelet. And this is kind of what I was getting at, guys. Each and every night, it feels like some of the biggest stars in poker, some of the biggest names in poker are making these final tables. Chance Kornuth heads up for a bracelet. Tony Dunst came third place for a bracelet. Jason Somerville made a final table. Phil Hellmuth in event number 1 came in 11th place. And then here, Joe Mckeon, who is arguably the most impressive main event champion we've seen over the last 10, 15 years. I know that's a whole debate. We can get into an argument. Maybe some people are in the Joe Cata camp, some people are in the Greg Merson camp. Joe Mckeon is certainly in that conversation, and here he is playing for the bracelet.
Yeah, the rich might be getting richer. I mean, I guess he already is getting richer, but even more.
All right. Well, don't lose sight of what they're playing for right now. Of course, the bracelet is up for grabs. The whole funk is looking for his first ever bracelet. By the way, he is already guaranteed, the whole funk, Frank Funaro, his career live tournament winnings is $129,000. He's guaranteed 219.
Awesome.
But the difference between first and second, by the way, is $133,000. That's how large this heads up match is. $133K.
This is a big event. I mean, there's plenty of World Series of Poker player bracelets at the live events that are smaller than this. So this is a big event.
I don't know much about Frank Funaro, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that he's probably a cash game player because I've been somewhat impressed by his play today. You know, when once he got the chip lead, he really kind of pushed. He realized what he needed to do when he had the chip lead.
Yeah, no, he picked up a lot of chips, stealing the blinds, and c betting and just playing aggressive, and he definitely played smart. It's interesting seeing people play heads up because obviously this is my specialty. So, and it's not other people, so they might specialize in 9 max or 6 max or whatever, and then you get the heads up, and you can just it's just a totally different game. Ranges are so wide. You're going to be limping some pre-flop. You're going to be playing a lot of buttons. You're going to be playing a lot of small or the big blind, and it's just a completely different game. So it's fun to see how these guys adjust to this heads up play.
Stray Cat 1284, thank you for joining us. King Jack Queen 3 high card going to play here, and the whole funk back up to 5.8 million. Still trailing Joe Mckeon by a few 100,000. Fallow says, pretty sure Max is using this commentary to set up a return to poker and is inducing everyone into over bluffing him with his analysis, and he's going to trap you all.
It's an interesting theory. Probably not true, though.
My introduction, by the way, to the Steinberg family was actually commentating on the World Series of Poker Europe when Danny, his twin brother, made the main event final table. I want to say that was 2009.
That sounds about right. I'm trying to wonder
Maybe
if
10?
we're even 20. Yeah, I mean, it might have been 2010. Yeah.
Either way,
yeah,
Danny Steinberg,
yeah.
and I want to say, I mean, this is just my memories being tested here. I want to say Danny came in 5th place.
I think 5th or 6th. Yeah.
In the main event, World Series of Poker Europe main event.
Do you remember who won?
I do. Short, little, fat English dude. Right?
Yes, James Ford. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
James Ford. And it was a crazy
yeah.
English crowd that knocked over the railing and everything. I do remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that was a great final table. That was fun.
Yeah, I think Victor Blom made it kind of deep, and that was really exciting. But then
I
got
remember
knocked
Victor
out in like
Blom
16.
playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Victor Blom was playing, and I was walking around. Nobody knew who he was yet, and I could see him, and I was like, that guy's a player. You can just tell.
Yeah.
And we had no idea that was Victor Blom.
Correct.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, the World Series of Poker Europe, that was my first introduction to your family. And then, of course, I met you in 2012 when you and I did a ton of commentary together. And obviously, throughout the years, we've been very lucky to have you in the booth time and time again. It kind of doesn't feel like summer if I don't have you in the booth at least once.
It definitely doesn't feel like a normal summer period. So
yeah, well, it's not. It's not. Obviously, we'd all rather get the Rio.
What do you call it? Because this is not the booth. Would you have a name for it?
I don't know.
Your office and your home.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I've got like my wife's school supplies over my right shoulder.
The den.
You know, yeah, no,
The
it is
black
our
den.
this is my office, and it's
Yeah.
like but my wife's office as well. I mean, we don't have like we don't have we live in LA. We don't have separate offices.
Red. The black den.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I kind of want to. I kind of want
Yeah.
to put like I wish I could put up like a black apron behind and call it
Uh-huh.
Black Booth Mojo at home.
Red.
Ace high.
Ooh,
Looks like it's
good.
going to be good here, and it
Sink.
is. Not much chip movement right now. Joe McKeon still on 6.5 million. The whole funk is still on 5.8 million. Obviously, the players were very short when we were 5-6 handed, but we kind of went from 5 to 2 pretty quick. It's like we lost one player,
Yeah.
then lost boom, boom, boom. And now they've got a little bit of play.
They do, although the blinds are going to go up in about 30 seconds. So, but when your heads up, 20 big blinds or even 25 or 30 can go a long way. So they do have a lot of room, and they're both limping, so that sort of makes stacks effectively deeper. So there's some room. We're seeing a lot of post flop play, which is fun.
That's pretty cool. Expected value comes in the chat and says the whole funk apparently is streaming this final table right now. We've seen players
Uh,
do that. Of course, Poker Guru, Bustin' Balls, who has had an amazing series, won his first bracelet earlier on. He was streaming at the same time we are, in all likelihood on a much longer delay. So don't be a jerk and watch this and then go over to their stream and then spoil it for everybody. Nobody likes that guy, so don't do that. But that's kind of, I look at, we talk about how this summer is, odd and strange, and we'd all rather be in Vegas playing live poker. There are some positives to it. And one of them being, all the different avenues for streaming these, whether it be here and Jeff Platt does it sometimes. And, we get to see a bunch of different tables and then people streaming their own tables, which is also very
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's a different thing, but I think good stuff will come out of it. It's a fun new wrinkle that will change the way the World Series is for the future, as we were talking about earlier. This is probably going to continue, and we'll get a live World Series poker back, but there's going to be more online stuff, and it's fun. It's like a great new addition. We should have both like this. So I think this is a good step to having more online events, having more online poker be an important aspect of the World Series of Poker.
Yeah. Yancey B says Tuck is live from the set of Hoarders. It feels like that. It does feel like that. But my wife, no, my wife had to go to her classroom. She was, teaching from home and get all of her like classroom supplies. So there's just boxes everywhere. I kind of want her to get back into her classroom. I think she does too, for what it's worth. Pot is 672,000. Joe McKeon up to 7 million now. If he can win this one, kind of put a little bit of distance between him and the whole funk.
Yep.
Once again, the whole funk is Frank Funaro. And to your point, I really think you look at the numbers here. 496 players entered this one. We've had 2,400 purple field. I mean, we've had a lot of large entries in all of these tournaments so far. 8-9 versus Ace
Wow. Great
6.
call.
Whoa!
Great call.
Wow.
Joe has really been playing impressively. I gotta say. I mean, that's a second great call. Just playing aggressively, playing smart. Good, great,
I
really great play.
Joe McKeon he is an absolute beast. I mean, every time I watch this guy play, I am impressed. Let me ask you something. If you're the whole funk and you realize who you're up against, and then you make that bluff and he calls, do you do, do you do something to raise variance a little bit because you realize that if you play small ball against somebody like Joe McKeon, he's going to eat you alive?
I think that's wow. I mean, you're being pretty dramatic, David. I
What?
mean, I don't know if he thinks that Joe's going to eat him alive, although he certainly has gotten the best of him. I think,
Uh,
speaking to that, though, I think if you lose pots against someone, it affects you psychologically. It's just there's not, and it is tough. It's tough to be like, okay, am I going to bluff again? Should I never bluff again? It's hard to make that decision. So I think it certainly is getting in his head, but I don't think he's giving up quite yet.
No, I'm
just
not saying
yet.
he's giving up. Okay,
You're
I
good.
might have misspoke for a second. Max, by the way, is a heads up specialist. I mean, he was back in
Right,
the day at least. So you can speak on the psychological toll it takes on you, especially when you can't
right,
hide and you're in a heads up situation. That
right.
said, I think human beings, it's very difficult for us to be honest with ourselves, honestly assess a situation and be like, okay, that player is better than me. That's hard to do as a human being. Our brains just aren't wired
Right,
that way.
right.
But I'm just wondering, like, if I was sitting at a table with the likes of a Joe Mckeon, a Phil Ivey, so, if I'm thinking about some of the best players in the world, if I'm heads up for a bracelet with one of those guys, I think that I would probably try to raise the variance a little bit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I don't know the whole Funk's experience playing heads up or playing heads up in line. Joe probably has a lot more experience, so he can get a little more aggressive to raise the variance. But I don't know. I think even if I felt like I was outclassed in heads up match, I'd still want to just try to outclass the person that I'm outclassed by because that's the beauty of poker is sometimes you can outthink someone who has better results than you, has more experience than you, and that's the fun part. So, and I think, you're going for a bracelet. Like, try to do your best. Don't try to just raise the variance, and then play your game and see what happens.
Well, it all makes sense. I mean, hey,
Yeah,
I got it. Once again, way back when Ryan DePaulo knocked out Chris Ferguson on the bubble, which is just
yeah,
so awesome. I mean, it's just another amazing story of this World Series of Poker as we continue. We are just about halfway through what has been a really fun month. All in here and a call 7-6 versus Ace 9. Ace 9 still good and continues to be
that's
good.
it.
And that is
Wow.
it. The whole Funk, all in and all out. He'll take home $219,000. Congratulations to Frank Funaro. A great run by you. But Joe Mckeon, now a three-time bracelet winner. Max, you've got a ton of experience with this guy. What can you say about Joe Mckeon that I haven't said already?
Yeah, I mean, he won the main event. He played exceptionally well during our main event final table. He played very well tonight. He's a great player, and congratulations to him.
Fan of the poker, Joe Mckeon takes home $352,985 and his third World Series of Poker bracelet. What a performance by him. Now, this despite, by the way, getting it in a couple of times with the best hand, dominating his opponent and losing both of those. Had to be
Yeah,
frustrating for him, but he stayed on par. Like I said, I'm always really impressed by poker players that can overcome adversity, and Joe McKeon showed us that tonight.
yeah, you couldn't say he got lucky at this final table. He didn't get lucky at all. He lost all ins where he was ahead. He made two great calls on bluffs. He played just very, very well.
Another great final table. Max, fantastic commentary as always. Thank you so much for joining us. And I want to thank everybody for joining us, of course. We are back at it tomorrow. July 15th, we have the $1,000 pot limit Omaha 8 Max High Roller. I am angling to get Joey Ingram in the booth. Don't know if it'll happen or not, but if you guys want him, if you want Joe Ingram, go tweet him. Just barrage him with tweets. The more tweets he gets, the more likely he is to join us, okay? My guess is if he gets over 100 tweets, he will be here tomorrow night. So fingers crossed. If not Joey, we'll get somebody else. Nonetheless, we'll be here for sure. For everybody at PokerGo, for Max Steinberg, for everybody at the World Series of Poker, I'm David Tuchman. Thank you and good night.